There is a moment in almost every relationship that nobody notices when it happens. Nothing dramatic occurs. No argument, no betrayal, no final goodbye. Just a small emotional shift. Conversations feel slightly heavier. One person begins thinking more than speaking. The other becomes comfortable without realizing something important is quietly changing. And strangely, love may still be present, but something else has already begun moving underneath it. Power, not the kind people imagine, not control, not dominance, not manipulation, but emotional power. The invisible force that decides whose feelings shape the relationship, whose silence carries weight, and whose emotional state begins guiding the direction of connection. Most people never learn to see this. They believe relationships succeed through effort, sacrifice, or affection alone. Yet many relationships collapse even when effort exists, even when love exists, even when both people genuinely care. Because love does not organize relationships. Emotional power does. And the person who understands this rarely needs to fight for attention, chase reassurance, or fear emotional distance. Tonight, we are not learning how to gain power over someone. We are learning why relationships naturally reorganize themselves around emotional stability, and why the calmest person often becomes the emotional center without trying. Listen slowly, because this is not advice. This is the hidden structure behind human attachment itself. Attraction begins with equality. Two people meet without emotional history. Curiosity flows both directions. Every message feels meaningful. Every interaction carries uncertainty. Every moment feels alive because nothing is guaranteed yet. Psychologically, uncertainty activates attention. The brain releases dopamine not when reward is certain, but when reward feels possible. This is why early attraction feels electric. Both people are emotionally awake. But beneath this excitement, another system quietly activates, one older than romance itself. The nervous system begins asking a silent question. Is this person emotionally safe for me? Humans are not designed only to seek pleasure. They are designed to seek regulation. Your brain constantly scans tone, timing, facial expression, emotional consistency. Not consciously, biologically. When someone responds calmly, your nervous system relaxes. When someone becomes unpredictable, your system stays alert. This process is called emotional co-regulation. Two emotional systems begin influencing each other automatically. And this is where relational power is born, long before anyone realizes it exists. The person whose emotional state remains more stable becomes the regulating force. Not intentionally, naturally, because human beings unconsciously organize around emotional certainty. Think about moments when you felt deeply calm around someone. They didn't try to impress you. They didn't demand attention. Yet their presence slowed your thoughts. That feeling is not attraction alone. It is regulation. And regulation creates trust faster than affection ever can. Most people misunderstand this moment. They believe attraction grows through excitement, but long-term emotional influence grows through stability. The partner who reacts less impulsively, who remains grounded during tension, who does not emotionally collapse during uncertainty, slowly becomes the emotional reference point, and without realizing it, the relationship begins orbiting their internal state. This is the first form of power, invisible, quiet, almost impossible to notice while it happens, because nothing looks different externally. But internally, emotional gravity has begun forming, and gravity changes movement without needing force. In the beginning, emotional energy moves equally. Both people wait for messages. Both notice small changes in tone. Both feel the quiet excitement of uncertainty. But relationships do not remain in beginnings. Time introduces familiarity, and familiarity introduces emotional exposure. One person slowly begins caring slightly more, not dramatically, just subtly. They think longer before replying. They replay conversations in their mind. They begin protecting the connection instead of simply experiencing it. This moment feels like love growing, but psychologically, something else is happening at the same time. Investment is becoming uneven, and emotional investment always changes relational gravity. The human brain fears loss more strongly than it values gain. This is called loss aversion. Once attachment forms, the possibility of losing connection activates anxiety systems deep in the nervous system. And anxiety changes behavior quietly. A person becomes more accommodating. They avoid conflict. They adjust personality slightly to maintain harmony. None of this feels intentional, feels caring. But emotional systems interpret signals differently than conscious intention. When behavior begins coming from fear of loss rather than natural expression, emotional balance starts shifting. The relationship does not notice immediately, but attraction begins changing shape, because attraction depends partly on emotional autonomy. Autonomy signals inner stability. When someone starts needing reassurance to feel secure, their nervous system communicates urgency, even if words remain calm. And urgency alters perception. The other partner may not think, "I have more power now." They simply begin feeling less uncertainty, less tension, less emotional risk. And without risk, curiosity slowly decreases. This is one of the most painful paradoxes in relationships. The more someone tries to protect connection through effort, the more emotional mystery disappears. And mystery is not manipulation. Mystery is emotional space, the unknown area where imagination continues working. When emotional outcomes become predictable, the brain relaxes too much. Comfort grows, but emotional intensity fades. So power shifts not through dominance, but through emotional dependency. One person begins monitoring emotional temperature. The other begins resting inside it. And this change rarely creates conflict immediately. Instead, it creates confusion. Someone feels they are trying harder but receiving less emotional energy. Someone else feels nothing is wrong but cannot explain why attraction feels quieter. Neither person understands that the emotional structure underneath them has reorganized. Power has moved, silently, gradually, almost kindly, because relationships do not break suddenly. They rebalance slowly until one person feels emotionally heavier than the other. An emotional weight changes everything. The one carrying more emotional weight begins seeking reassurance. The one carrying less begins feeling pressure they cannot explain. This is where many couples misinterpret the situation. They believe communication is the problem, but communication is only the symptom. The real shift happened earlier, when emotional regulation stopped being shared equally. And now the relationship searches unconsciously for a new center. Most people believe power in relationships belongs to the person who speaks louder, decides more, or appears less emotionally affected. But psychological reality works differently. Power does not belong to the person who controls the relationship. It belongs to the person who can control their internal reactions while the relationship moves through uncertainty. Because relationships are emotional environments, and every emotional environment naturally organizes itself around stability. Imagine two nervous systems interacting. One becomes anxious during silence. The other remains calm. One reacts quickly during conflict. The other pauses before responding. Without words, the calmer system begins regulating the anxious one. This is not strategy. It is biology. Human brains are wired to mirror emotional states through processes linked to mirror neurons and limbic resonance. When one person remains grounded, the other unconsciously adjusts toward that emotional rhythm. And slowly, something powerful happens. The calm person becomes the emotional reference point. Their reactions define what feels normal. Their silence carries meaning. Their reassurance carries weight. Their presence creates emotional balance. This is the moment relational power quietly stabilizes. Not because they demanded authority, but because emotional certainty reduces psychological chaos. People are drawn toward emotional clarity the same way bodies move toward warmth in cold environments. Now here is the paradox most people never notice. The person who becomes the emotional center is often not trying to influence anything. They simply remain internally anchored. They do not chase emotional validation. They do not withdraw to punish. They remain present without panic. And presence without panic feels rare, because many people unknowingly operate from emotional survival. They seek reassurance to calm fear. They withdraw to protect pride. They react to regain control. But emotional centering removes survival behavior. When someone stays emotionally whole regardless of temporary distance or disagreement, the relationship begins feeling safer around them. Safety increases openness. Openness increases emotional intimacy. And intimacy strengthens attraction. This is why grounded individuals often appear quietly powerful. They do not create emotional storms. They create emotional space. And space allows connection to breathe. But this stage introduces danger as well. Because once imbalance exists, many people attempt to regain power through force rather than stability. And that is where relationships begin damaging themselves. When emotional balance shifts inside a relationship, most people feel the change. But they do not understand it. They only notice symptoms: less excitement, longer silences, unexplained emotional distance, and fear quietly appears. Fear of losing importance. Fear of being replaced. Fear that love is fading. Human beings rarely sit calmly with emotional uncertainty. Instead, they try to restore balance. But the methods people choose often create the opposite result. Someone becomes more demanding emotionally. Someone begins testing loyalty indirectly. Someone withdraws attention hoping the other person will chase. These behaviors feel instinctive because they come from survival systems, not conscious intention. The brain believes control will restore security. So people attempt subtle strategies. They delay responses to regain importance. They hide vulnerability to appear stronger. They create emotional tension hoping attraction returns. And temporarily attention may increase. But something essential begins breaking underneath. Trust. Because emotional safety disappears when connection becomes conditional. When affection feels like reward. When silence feels like punishment. When closeness depends on emotional performance. The nervous system stops relaxing. And attraction cannot survive long without relaxation. This is one of the deepest psychological truths about relationships. Fear can maintain attachment, but fear destroys intimacy. Intimacy requires voluntary openness. Openness cannot exist where emotional control is present. So relationships enter a painful cycle. One person pushes for reassurance. The other pulls away to regain space. The more one pursues, the more the other distances. Neither person intends harm. Both are trying to feel safe again. But instead of restoring balance, they amplify imbalance. Because real power was never about influencing the other person. It was always about remaining emotionally stable within yourself. And this is where the final realization emerges. True relational power is paradoxical. It belongs to the person who does not abandon themselves to keep connection alive. Someone who can love deeply without collapsing into fear. Someone who can face emotional distance without turning it into punishment. Someone who stays present without trying to control outcomes. This kind of stability creates emotional gravity. And gravity does not chase. It attracts naturally. When a person becomes internally steady, relationships stop feeling like negotiations for validation. They begin feeling like shared emotional space. And sometimes, this realization arrives too late. People look back and realize the relationship didn't fail because love ended. It failed because emotional balance disappeared. Power was fought over instead of understood. And this is the truth most people never learn. Power in relationships is not about who needs less, and not about who controls more. It is about who remains emotionally whole when connection becomes uncertain. The person who understands their own emotional world no longer needs to manipulate love, because stability itself becomes influence. So tonight, ask yourself quietly, are you trying to hold someone closer, or are you becoming steady enough that closeness feels safe around you? If this changed the way you see relationships, subscribe to Voxlore Audio, because in the next episode, we will uncover how emotional neediness silently changes attraction long before either person realizes what is happening.